Today on Sugar Spun Run, we'll be making Gingersnap cookies. Hey everyone, Sam here, and today I'm sharing a recipe for crisp, snappy Gingersnap cookies. Now, I will also be sharing a soft and chewy version, but today we're sticking with a classic hard and snappy cookie. Now, to get started, you'll want to preheat your oven to 315, that's 315 degrees Fahrenheit. Next, the first ingredient you're going to need is 7 tablespoons of unsalted butter, and you want to go ahead and melt this and then let it cool until it's no longer warm to the touch. Now we can add our sugar, vanilla, and spices. We're going to start with 1/2 cup of granulated sugar, 1/4 cup of firmly packed dark brown sugar, and 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Now we'll add our spices, and these Gingersnap cookies use a lot of spices. They're all important for that perfect Gingersnap flavor. We'll start with 2 1/4 teaspoons of ground ginger, 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon, 1/4 teaspoon of cloves, 1/8 teaspoon of cayenne pepper, and then just about 1/16 teaspoon of ground black pepper. Now the cayenne pepper and the ground black pepper might seem like unusual cookie ingredients, but they're actually pretty common in Gingersnaps. They add a nice heat to the cookie that you're probably used to if you've ever eaten Gingersnaps before. You'll feel it on the back of your tongue after you bite into the cookie. Now you'll want to stir all of these ingredients together until they're well combined. I like to add our spices here with the wet ingredients and the melted butter rather than with the dry ingredients and the flour, because I feel like it really helps to infuse the flavor through the whole cookie. That melted butter really does a good job of helping to meld those flavors. Now we'll add our molasses, and you will need 2 tablespoons of molasses for this recipe. We'll make sure to stir this molasses into our other ingredients until it's nicely combined. And now we'll also add 2 tablespoons of milk and 1 large egg yolk. Now set your wet ingredients aside, and you're going to need a separate bowl for your dry ingredients. We're going to start with 1 2/3 cups of all-purpose flour. Add a 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda and a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and we'll just whisk these together until they're nicely combined. Now gradually stir your dry ingredients into your wet ingredients until completely combined and you have a nice cookie dough. Once you have everything mixed together, we can go ahead and portion out our cookie dough and bake our Gingersnap cookies. Now, I like to portion the dough by about 2 teaspoons of dough per cookie. You want to keep them pretty small, that way they cook evenly all the way through and they get nice and crisp in the oven without having to wait forever for them to finish baking. These cookies are already going to be cooking for a longer amount of time than your standard cookie, so keeping them small just cuts down on that time a little bit. Now I always roll the dough between my palms to form a nice little ball, and then I also like to roll this in granulated sugar. The dough will be a little bit sticky, but it shouldn't be unmanageably so. If your cookies get too misshapen while you're rolling them through the sugar, once they're nicely coated in granulated sugar, it might help to then try to roll them again. The sugar will help keep them from sticking to your hands, and it'll give them a nice round shape. All right, let's take these over to our 315 Fahrenheit preheated oven, where they will need to bake for about 20 to 22 minutes. Once your cookies are finished baking, you'll want to take a clean glass with a flat bottom, and I like to just gently, or actually rather firmly, press down on each cookie to help flatten it even further. You'll want to make sure that you do this within 1 to 2 minutes of the cookies coming out of the oven. If you wait any longer than that, they're really not going to give any when you press into them. Now, I've found that pressing into the cookies in this way helps make them even more crisp once they're cooled. Now, after your cookies have finished baking, you do not want to touch them or enjoy them until they have cooled completely. They're still going to be pretty soft when they're warm, so let them cool completely so they'll be nice and crisp when they're finished. Once your cookies have cooled completely, they should be nice and crisp and brittle, just like a Gingersnap should be. And that is how you make crisp, snappy Gingersnaps at home completely from scratch. I hope you guys enjoyed today's recipe, and if you try this one out, please let me know what you think. And be sure to watch for my soft and chewy version that'll be coming soon. All right, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. You hear that crunch? These are good.